Hello, welcome to the Budapest Speed Shop. This is part 3 of a series. If you haven't seen part 1 and part 2, please look at the description. I have a link there. So come with me, let's tackle this Mercury engine and see what happens today. Well, a couple weeks went by. I just came back from Hungary, so let's get back to work. I got 10 days to put this thing together because it's leaving for a Route 66 tour, hopefully. So, well, my friends are coming. They need to take some car. I'm hoping that they're going to take this one. So I got the main bearings installed, and now I got the proper rod bearings as well. It's made by Mala. That's normally a German company, but it was made in the USA, so I'm very happy with it from Rock Auto. I already installed for 4 cylinders, so now the other 4 coming, but before I do that, I'm going to remove these caps. I don't want to teach the Eagle how to fly, but maybe some younger kids watching this, so these are the rod bearings inside on the end of the connecting rods, and these are the main bearings. The main bearings, main bearing caps have an orientation and a position. So the orientation is showed which way the front of the engine is, and then they're numbered because when they're manufacturing this engine, they actually pull them down, and then they have a long drill what actually drills them to a line, and then you can't interchange them. So what we need to do now is I'm gonna have to remove them and make sure they go back to the same spot where they are. Last time when I was working on it, I actually blown out the threads to make sure there's no oil in them, and we need to make sure it's all clean, that there is no residue or any kind of anything on it, so they will be able to line up very nicely. This is the thrust bearing on it, and this design is actually together with the mains. On some designs, they have a separate piece what you can actually change without removing everything, I believe, but that might not be the case. But you can actually just change the thrust bearing and not the main bearing. But in this one, it's all grown together. So now we're going to remove a cap. There's no nut on it anymore. And I cleaned it up earlier and removed the cap from it. So we're going to clean it a little bit more and install the rod bearing in it. There's the rod bearing, there is a little cut in it. There's also a cut, we're gonna match them up. Clean it up with a rag already, and by hand just to make sure there's no debris underneath. We're gonna line this thing up with, and then we just push it in. It's a nice fit. So we're gonna do the same thing with the other side. So first, I'm gonna clean that part just to make sure that there is no debris on it, no oil residue, no nothing, and then we can install the rod bearing in it. I usually just finish it off with my finger just to make sure there's nothing on it, and then we can install that back on. And before we're gonna put the main crankshaft back on, I will remove these caps and nicely line them up, and I'm gonna put oil on all of these, assembly lube on all of these, so when we start to crank the engine, make sure they don't run dry. Now we're gonna put some assembly lube on it, and then we can start putting it back together. So I just washed my hands to make sure I'm gonna have clean hands. And then we're gonna basically smear it around with a clean fingers to make sure that when this engine starts, it's not gonna get damaged. All these bearings gonna be just fine when we're gonna start cranking the engine. I'm gonna crank it up without any ignition first to make sure we get all pressure. The oil will replace this, and then we are in good shape. I cleaned up all the surfaces where it's supposed to have a bearing. The bearings are all oiled up, so let's try to put this on. It wasn't too difficult. I just had to make sure that this will be in position, so as this one, so as this one, and so as this one. Now it's all good, so now I can start putting on the caps. You gotta remember that the orientation is important, that make sure where this, well, I don't know, this little notch is on the same side. So not one notch is here, one notch is there, so make sure it's not reversed, and make sure every one of these gets its own cap. There's a number on the side to make sure that number will match up. And then once it's on, the first one is on, I'm gonna put some nuts on it to make sure it won't move if you move the whole crankshaft. Now I'm not gonna put lube on this cap, and we're gonna measure the clearance between the crankshaft and the bearing. I have one of these clearance range or clearance gauge, I don't know how to, a plastic gauge I guess, and then it's basically just a little Play-Doh piece that we're gonna squish, and then we're gonna see how wide that squished material is, and that's how we can measure the gap between the bearings and the crankshaft. This way we can gauge how much the crankshaft actually worn out, but I have a feeling it's gonna be just fine. Now put this cap on, I left a little gap there, that's where we're gonna push this measuring device in. Now we're gonna tighten it up and see where we are. A little bit on this side, then the other side. When I do the final assembly, I'm gonna use a torque wrench, but I didn't use it now. So anyhow, I'm gonna open it up and then see how wide it is. Now we're gonna take the nuts off, take the cap off, and see what we got. So there is the mark, so it's there. Let's match it up. It looks like it's 0.002. The book's saying that this is the desired, this is the allowable, so that's the 0.002. That's pretty much at the end of it, but it's still allowable, so I think we are in good shape. Now we're gonna go look at the main bearings, and it's showing me that the number 1 and the number 2, 3, 4, and 5 has different numbers. So we look at 1 and then just see if it's sort of there or not, and I just don't care about the rest. So now we're gonna try number 4 main bearing. That's the number 4, oriented this way. There is a little measuring strip, and let's put it on. Now we can take it apart. Ooh, yeah. We're gonna have to use a torque wrench when we're gonna put it together. Let's see what we got. It seems like it's the same. It's 0.002, just like on the other one. So that I think that looks pretty fine. It looks like it's just very same as the broad bearing. So it's showing me that that number 4 and number 5, whatever. So number 4 would be up to 0.0026, and it was 0.2. So I think it's gonna be just fine. It's a nice Sunday morning. I really have a goal in mind that I really want this engine back in the car today, so let's get to it. So first I'm gonna clean the marks what we made with this little measuring tape or measuring rod or something, and then we're gonna start putting all the caps back on. And the book is showing it how to align the thrust bearing cap, the middle one. So it says you got to pry the crankshaft forward and hold, and then pry the cap rearward and hold rearward, and then once it's there, then you keep holding the crankshaft forward, and then you tighten the main cap bolts. While we were looking at the book, I wanted to see the torque limitations. So here's the main bearing caps is 95 to 100, so I'm gonna just set it to 100. That's for the main bearing caps, and the let's see, where was that? Connecting rod knots is 40 to 45. That's what I'm gonna set it to. So we're gonna move the crankshaft forward like this, forward, and then we're gonna hold that prying on it, and then this one should go backwards, and then we can tighten these down. I usually start in the middle. I already done those. This is the torque wrench, and you just got to pull it until it clicks. There it is. There it is. And then this one is done, so we're gonna do the front one and then the back ones. Pull a little bit and then a little bit on the other one. There you go. And then we're gonna do the same thing with the different settings with the rod bearings as well. Now that we torqued everything, we're gonna reinstall the oil pump. The oil pump goes here, and then the shaft goes through here to the bottom of the distributor. Maybe you can see it better here. Here's that long rod. It actually comes out of it very easily. We'll clean it off at the end. And this is what actually turns the pump. So there was no seal here, so I guess it was very nicely machined, but I'm kind of not trusting this. So I'm gonna put a very, very thin layer of ultra copper in there, make sure that it's not gonna suck some false air. I had an engine failure due to that, so since then I'm kind of leery about this. So we're gonna find the hole. Can't find the hole. There is no fur on it. My uncle said that once. There it is. Okay, so now it sits there very nicely, the end of the distributor shaft. So now you're just gonna clean this surface and the other surface and put a very little layer of ultra copper on it, and then we can put the 2 bolts in. Apparently this is the best silicone money can buy. I guess it's a Mopar part, so I hope the car is not gonna get offended. I put like a very thin layer here and a very thin layer on the engine block. Should work. Okay, now we just gotta tighten up those bolts, and then we are done with this. Now we can reinstall the timing chain and the timing gears. Since this one is a sliding area, I'm gonna put a little bit of assembly lube on it. I got this on for the timing. This wedge is supposed to look towards the top of the engine. Here's a little mark on it, and here's a little dot in the gear. They have to match up, and then this thing has to match up as well with this. So now we're in good shape. We got one of these plates with going over this, and then we're gonna have to install this bolt for this eccentric round piece. As you see, this one has a little bit of ear. That ear will go into this hole, and the bolt goes into the bolt hole, and it will have to line up with it, and then we are in good shape. So far, this was the easy part. Now we're gonna have to put on the water pump and that whole assembly under the water pump. That's gonna be a real pain in the ass. So let's get to it. Before anything, I'm gonna turn the whole engine around. That's something I got used to doing after putting a timing together. Make sure the pistons will not touch the valves. There are some engines which are non-interference engines. I'm not totally sure if this one is or not, but just to make sure, I'm gonna turn it around a couple times. I'm kind of debating how to do this, right? So the Ford has a tool which will center this piece on the shaft, on the main shaft, crankshaft. So it's got a little bit of give. So what I need to make sure that it will go in straight. So what I think I'm gonna start here. The problem is there are some bolts what going through this, which I still need to clean, looks like, and those go through the water pump as well. So we need to put this one on first, center it, then put the water pump on it and use all the bolts to install it. And then once it's on and tight, then we can put the lower pan on it. So first we gotta prep this one properly, because it looks like, as I'm looking through, there's still some dirt in it which I need to drill through or something, and I need to prepare the water pump as well. So here's the high flow aftermarket water pump from California, and I'm gonna have to put this one in. I'm gonna put a little bit of a Teflon tape and then install this one. And this is the one where the rubber hose goes to the engine block. So we need to make sure that this one is installed, and we're gonna put the rubber hose on it before we put this whole thing on. And then this one also has to go in. This already has a Teflon tape on it. We'll install that as well. I did a tri-fit with everything. I got all the bolts are basically set where I need to go. So now we can take it apart and start putting it together. The only problem is that I put the time cert at the wrong position, probably, so that hole doesn't line up. So I need to adjust the size of the hole a little bit, and also I need to adjust on the water pump as well. Now the plate is done, so now I just got to adjust the seal and the water pump. Well, it fits now, so I guess it's gonna work. I just use the hole puncher to extend the hole a little bit, and that should work. I'm gonna put the sealant on every position here, and then every surface here was touching, and then we're gonna go to the engine side. It's two different seals. One does have a gap here, the other one has a total seal. This goes here, then goes the metal, then goes the other one. This water pump sandwich is ready. This one is prepped, ready to put it back together. And then I'm gonna put anti-seize on the bolts so they wouldn't go bad when we try to take it apart next time. All the bolts are in, what's supposed to be in. So next I need to do is to make sure that this one is set up correctly. So I push this on, gonna touch the seal, and I can move the whole housing. So I wanna make sure that it's actually just about right. And then while I'm holding it, that's when I'm gonna tighten everything up. Everything is tightened up, torqued down. We are in good shape. It worked out very nicely. So now we can actually put the pan on it. So this seal coming together from 4 different pieces. There's 2 of them for the end, and then 2 of these cork goes on the side. I know that I'm not supposed to put sealant on it. Some people are saying that I don't have to. I said I just don't care. I don't want to redo it in a year, so I'm just gonna fill it up with seal around it so it would not leak on me. Because I had cars what I put together without the silicone and with the silicone, and then it was always, if it's made out of this cork material, it was guaranteed that it will leak after a while. So I'm just gonna put a thin layer of it on it, and then we can put the lower pan on. This is why I really wanted to take this pan off, because the drain plug is not at the very bottom of this. So I had to make sure that it's all clean, because that's where this microphone, we call it, sucks the oil up, and then it just makes the matters worse if it's all dirty. Well, I guess it's all finished. So next thing we can do is put on the engine mounts and then the exhaust manifolds. I'm really excited that I was able to find an exhaust manifold for the driver's side, because it was not available for a very long time, and for some reason there was just one at Rock Auto for $13. I couldn't believe it. So I got that and can put that back on, because last time I had to glue it together with some windshield glue, and it actually held pretty good, but I want to change it. So let's put the engine mounts and the manifolds on. I always double check it with this big arm, just to make sure that all these bolts are tight. And now we can put the exhaust manifolds on. I'm using this ultra copper exhaust sealant. because there are some big gaps underneath, so I want to make sure it's going to be tight. And then I might know it wrong, but I think the metal part has to face the manifold. So I'm just going to put it on like this, and I hope for the best. Now we're talking. So now I just got to wrestle it, move it back upside up, and then I got to hook it up to the hoist, and then mate it with the transmission. Now that I got to this point, I'm gonna change the seal for the torque converter. So basically just gonna pull it out, and the seal gonna be exposed, and change it, put it back on, put the flywheel on, or actually the flex plate on, and then we can go from there. The guy I got it from, he said they just put this torque converter in, but I don't know how many years ago was that. So it looks pretty clean, but it was sitting for a while. I'm just gonna change it nonetheless. I usually drill a hole and then put a screw in it, and then I'm able to pull this whole thing out using the screw. I've put this hammer sideways, then put the plier on it, and I pried it, and it came right out. I got the new seal in. I put a little grease on it, make sure it doesn't get burned when it starts turning. And then I'm gonna push this on with two hands, and then I'm gonna twist it until these two wedges finds the oil pump. Of course, it had to leak some. So now we're gonna put the flex plate on. We're gonna be very careful with the flex plate not to touch anything, because it can bend very easily. We're gonna put this dust shield on it, and then the flex plate, and then we're gonna put the two things together. I torqued them down with holding the screwdriver on one end, and then using the torque wrench with the other. So now we can push the two things together. Well, we're almost there. So I lifted it up just enough for it to be at the right position. So now I gotta push the transmission a little forward, and I think it should go right in. Well, the transmission is together with the engine. The torque converter nuts are not on yet, so I'm gonna do that when the car is actually in the... Everything is together. The torque converter nuts will go on once we lift this thing up in the air. And now I see there's one more emission equipment I need to remove, and cap is this thing here. I got to cap that one. Great. Now I'm putting on the torque converter nuts over there. Gotta turn the whole thing until it exposes, and you just can't put the nut on the torque converter. There it is. You can put the nut on now. I think I got everything in order, so it's still dripping. I'm gonna have to pull this whole thing back, pull the car off the rack, and then put the engine in. And here's the exciting part. We can actually go inside there. Haha. Let's do it. I asked my teenage son to come out and help, but he's not really in a hurry to do that. Dang it. All right, finally my son came out to help. So we're gonna have to hold it straight and then make sure we pass the engine mount position holder bracket, and then this is the engine mount, so we gotta go more back. We're having an interference problem, and I'm probably gonna have to take one of the headers off in order to put that into position. So most likely I'm gonna take this side off. We're gonna pull it to one side, let it lower, and then it should go into position. Took the exhaust manifold off, and hopefully we can push it to the side enough to get it down and in. This side is not good either. I got to take this manifold off. There's no way around it, or I could take that part off, but I just don't know where those bolts are. Well, took off this side of the manifold as well, and now we're almost there. Just need to move it, wiggle it a little bit, and it should go right in. So got this in position right now, and then now I'm gonna put the manifolds on while I have space.
I really like this ultra copper because it comes off very easily. So I can just clean the whole thing by hand. I'm gonna use a little wire brush, very fine wire brush on the other side. Put the ultra copper back on, and it can go back on. Hopefully it will fit now that it's in position. Well, this thing don't fit. They said it's for this car, for this engine, but it looks really nice, very well made, but it just don't fit. Sucks. Now, one more thing I can try. I could install that transmission holder cross member. Maybe that will bring it into position and then it will fit. So I'll try that before I really give up on it. Unfortunately, this very well made part, it just don't fit. So just about missing just about that much. So yeah, I gotta put the original one back on. Good thing I saved it, and really good thing that these bolts actually came loose. So now I gotta find some new setup here, some new studs, and then make it ready. This is the time when it's good not to throw everything away. And here's my dog Collie. Want to say hi. Hello, Collie. And then so anyhow, I thought maybe I'm gonna use these in a few years, but I didn't think that it was gonna be a month of time when I'm gonna need these. So I went to O'Reilly's and bought these long bolts. Surprisingly, they had that. They didn't have the studs, only metric. So this is not a metric stud. This is what I'm gonna have to replace. So I'm just gonna cut 2 of these length off, and then I'm gonna able to place it in here. And then I'm gonna have to recut the tap it a little bit to make sure that the thread is okay. And I have this machine here, which is a little shorter than this, but I still was able to clean this up a little bit. So I had to buy bolts for it. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter. So there's 2 longer ones on this side, and then the other side is all short, but it's fine. So I'm gonna work on these, and then when I take it to the muffler shop, they're gonna be able to cut this wherever they want it to, and then attach the new pipe bit to it. Using a tap, I cleaned out the thread inside. Now we're gonna able to put the new stud through this. This is how it looks like. I still got to turn this one in a little more. And here's this piece what's gonna come on. And then somewhere the exhaust guy gonna cut it, and then he's gonna continue on from there. I got the original manifolds back on. I guess I can remove the chain, and then we can push this thing back up on the lift, so we can continue on dressing up the engine. My dog is super excited. So I pushed it back with the tractor. It's up on the rack now. So first I want to sort out the engine mounts. So this bolt is in, the other one didn't go in, and most likely the reason for that is because the transmission mount is a little bit off. Actually the transmission has to go more to the right of the car, and then we can put those bolts back in, and then we can tighten these ones up as well on the 2 sides. Now that I tightened up the motor mounts, I tightened up the transmission mount. Now we're gonna take this diaper off and install the drive shaft. Well, minor discrepancy. It's a speedometer cable gear. Actually just broke at the end. So I don't know what I'm gonna do with it. I think I'm gonna remove it and then see if I can buy another one or glue it together. I found another one on eBay for $90, so it's coming, but until then it's gonna be good like this. It's got a square in this one as well, so it should be fine. And then once it's here, I'm gonna change it. I put everything up. I greased up these joints, so everything is tied up here. So I think next what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hook up the rod, the shifting rod, the shifting lever over here. I put up the shifter lever mechanism. Now I just got to find out when is it in park, and then when is it in park up there, and then I got to tighten up this nut, and then we're done with this. Now I'm gonna install the starter motor. The starter motor has 2 bolts. One has the thread on the bottom. The bottom one has the thread in the transmission. The upper one is actually the thread in the starter motor. Here's the starter motor. It looks pretty bad from the outside, but it's pretty decent looking on the inside, so I don't think I'm gonna change this. I'm just gonna clean the connector on it, which is here, and then we can put it up. I've installed the starter motor. I hooked it up, and I also installed these little exhaust pieces for the muffler shop. And then while we started, well, it's gonna sound a little sporty when we started, I'm sure. But yeah, I think we've done everything in the bottom here what I wanted to do. So now we can migrate over to the top of the car. Trying to make an action plan what we're gonna do. So I think at first I'm gonna take that chain off. We're not gonna need that no more. We can install the carburetor and install the fuel and take out this evaporator on the front. I think I just called the condenser an evaporator, so I hope it's not gonna get offended. But yeah, it's on some rubber bushings, and there's some holders on the bottom. We have a new one which I want to install. So here's the new radiator and the condenser. I can't believe I was able to buy an original one. So looks like this is where we're gonna need to attach it here, the other side, on the top and on the bottom. So I'm gonna start tearing down these connectors, and then all the holders, what holds it in position. I disconnected the pipes on the top, disconnected the holders, the brackets, and I pulled the brackets on the bottom. This nut came right off. On the other one, the other hand, it just basically unscrewed from here, so it was a little bit difficult to get it out, but now it's gonna slide out to the front very easily. Well, one of these mounts didn't want it to come out. Plus, this whole thing actually got to go inside the car, and that's how you can get it out. But that mount just separated, so I'm gonna have to repair it overnight. I don't know how can I get another one. I don't know how, but I forgot to buy a new filter dryer for it, and I don't want to put it together with the old one, which I changed not too long ago, but I ran the system a couple times, and it just, yeah, I need to buy a new one for it. It's gonna be Thursday by the time I get one. Also, I broke another one of these bushings off, so I'm gonna have to glue that together as well. So I think I'm just gonna proceed to put the whole thing together, and we'll install it once the exhaust is on it. So I just want to make sure that the car is running. You can take it to the muffler shop. That's the most important thing right now. I've installed the harmonic balancer, and then installed the alternator. And now we're gonna go the other side, hook up the fuel system correctly, and then we're gonna cover it up with all kind of air conditioning compressor and the power steering pump. I've installed the fuel supply, and I put the motorcraft filter on. So now we can go upstairs and work on the power steering pump and the AC pump. First bracket is up, and now here comes the next one. I'm gonna have to find all the bolts, and I can screw it up. I've moved the power steering pump back on. Just takes 3 bolts, and then we're gonna leave them loose, and then we're gonna leave this one loose as well, because first we need to put the belts on. I bought this nice brand new compressor, and it's just frozen up. I was trying to move it with a wrench and barely able to twist it and turn it. I turned it around a few times, but it's not supposed to go that way. The original what came out of it is actually going really nicely. So I don't know what's up with this. Well, I'm gonna clean up the thermostat housing, install the new thermostat, and then put the carburetor on. I'm gonna put this high flow thermostat in it. It works really well in other cars what I have. I got these clamps on and that clamp on, and I cleaned up the thermostat housing. The only problem is that I don't have a gasket for it, so I gotta go to O'Reilly's and source one. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I gotta go to O'Reilly's and get some automatic transmission fluid, a gasket, and then pretty much that's it. So I'm gonna have to fix this. So first I got to treat it with a little bit of rubbing alcohol to make sure all the oil comes off. Then here's the part number for the primer, and here's the glue afterwards, and just got to squish it in the vise for overnight, and it fixes it. I put the primer on. I gotta wait until it dries, and then I can put the glue on and we can squish them together.
Thanks for watching. The story doesn't end here. As you see, we're still not done. So I'll be back with more. See you guys next time.